The space station was bigger than anything Emily Park had ever seen. It floated in the darkness between stars, a massive ring of metal and light that could hold 1,000,000 beings from 100 different worlds. The humans called it Convergence Prime, though the aliens had a different name for it, one that human tongues could not speak. Emily stood near the observation window of the human shuttle, watching the station grow larger as they approached. She was 32 years old, with short black hair and steady hands that had won her 12 national shooting championships back on Earth. But none of that seemed to matter now. Out here, among the stars, humans were nothing. They were the new species, the primitive ones, the creatures who had only just learned to leave their own planet. Ambassador David Lee walked up beside her. He was an older man, gray at the temples, with kind eyes that hid a sharp mind. He had spent the last 3 years talking to aliens, learning their ways, trying to earn humanity a place in the Galactic Council. Nervous? He asked. Emily shook her head. Should I be? David smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. The Council has 12 member species. Each one had to prove themselves before they were accepted. The Velthari showed their military strength. The Mordekan demonstrated their scientific knowledge. The Tazari shared their medical advances. He paused. For us, they have chosen a test of precision, a shooting competition. That's why you brought me, Emily said. That's why I brought you, David agreed. But Emily, you need to understand something. These aliens, they don't think much of us. To them, we are children playing with toys. Our ships are slow. Our weapons are primitive. Our bodies are weak. They expect us to fail. Emily turned away from the window. Then I won't fail. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump, and the human delegation stepped onto Convergence Prime for the first time. There were 20 of them in total. Diplomats, scientists, soldiers, and Emily. She carried a long black case in her hand, and she did not let go of it for even a moment. The inside of the station was beautiful and strange. The walls curved in ways that hurt the eyes. The lights changed color as they walked, shifting from blue to gold to soft pink. Alien beings moved past them, some walking on 2 legs, some on 4, some floating in the air on wings of light. None of them looked at the humans. It was as if the small group did not exist at all. A tall alien stood waiting for them at the end of the corridor. She was Velthari, one of the most powerful species in the Council. Her skin was silver, smooth like polished metal. She had 4 arms and 4 eyes, and she moved with a grace that seemed almost liquid. Her name was Dasara, and she was a commander in the Velthari military. Welcome, humans, Dasara said. Her voice was pleasant, musical even, but there was something cold beneath it. We have been curious about your species. You have achieved faster than light travel only recently, yes? Quite impressive for being so young. Ambassador David bowed his head politely. Thank you, Commander. We are honored to be here. Dasara's 4 eyes moved across the group, studying each human in turn. When her gaze reached Emily, it stopped. She looked at the black case in Emily's hands. And what is this? Dasara asked. A weapon? A rifle, Emily said. For the test. Dasara made a sound that might have been a laugh. Ah, yes. The precision test. I had almost forgotten. She stepped closer to Emily, towering over the human woman. Tell me, little one, what do you hope to prove? The Mordekan representative scored 847 out of 1,000 targets last cycle. The Velthari champion scored 912. These are beings with eyes that see every spectrum of light, with minds that calculate trajectories faster than your primitive computers. Emily met the alien's gaze without flinching. I hope to do my best. Dasara smirked. It was a small expression, barely a twitch of her silver lips, but it said everything. She thought Emily was a joke. She thought all humans were jokes. "How charming," the Tsara said. "I look forward to watching your attempt." She turned and walked away, her forearms clasped behind her back. The other aliens in the corridor had stopped to watch the exchange. Some of them were whispering to each other, their translator devices converting their words into sounds that Emily could almost understand. Laughter. They were laughing. Sergeant James Kim moved to Emily's side. He was part of the military escort, a young man with a serious face and quick reflexes. He had trained with Emily for months before this mission, helping her prepare for conditions she had never faced before. "They're not even trying to hide it," James muttered. "They think we're nothing." "Let them think it," Emily said quietly. "Doesn't it bother you?" Emily looked down at the case in her hands. Inside was her rifle, a weapon she had built herself from parts she had chosen with care. It had no alien technology, no neural links, no probability calculators. It was just metal and glass and the skill of human hands. "My grandmother used to tell me a story," Emily said, "about a farmer who was laughed at by the wealthy lords. They mocked his small fields and his simple tools. But when the harvest came, his crops were the finest in the land." "Do you know what he said to the lords then?" James shook his head. "Nothing," Emily said. "He said nothing at all. He just let the grain speak for itself." She started walking, following the path that the Tsara had taken. The other humans fell in behind her, and together they moved deeper into the station, toward whatever challenges waited ahead. That night, in the small quarters assigned to the human delegation, Emily sat alone with her rifle. She took it apart piece by piece, cleaning each component, checking each mechanism. Her hands moved automatically, guided by years of practice. Outside her window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there was Earth, a tiny blue dot that most of the galaxy had never heard of. Somewhere out there were 7 billion humans who were counting on her, even if they did not know it. Emily put her rifle back together with a final click. She raised it to her shoulder, sighting down the barrel at an imaginary target. Tomorrow, she would show them what humans could do. The testing arena took Emily's breath away. It was a dome of pure crystal, 3 kilometers wide, floating in the emptiness of space. Through its transparent walls, she could see the stars spinning slowly past, cold points of light against the endless black. Inside the dome, there was no gravity. Targets floated everywhere, thousands of them, ranging from large squares the size of doors to tiny circles no bigger than coins. Emily floated at the entrance platform, her magnetic boots keeping her anchored to the metal floor. Around her, the other delegates had gathered to watch. There were hundreds of them, beings of every shape and size and color. The Mordekin were there, tall and thin with eyes that glowed like embers. The Tazari were there too, their bodies covered in soft blue fur. And of course, the Veltri, silver and proud. Looking down at everyone else, Ambassador David Lee floated beside Emily, his face pale with worry. "The rules are simple," he said, reading from his tablet. 1,000 targets will be released. They will move in random patterns. You have 15 minutes to hit as many as you can. The weapon must be brought by the participant. No outside assistance is allowed. "I understand," Emily said. "Emily." David hesitated. The Council has never seen a perfect score. The best ever recorded was 967 by a Tessari mathematician who could predict movement patterns in her head. No one expects you to match that. If you can score above 500, we will have earned some respect. Emily checked her rifle one more time. The weight of it was familiar in her hands, comfortable like an old friend. "I'm not here to earn some respect," she said. "I'm here to win." Before David could respond, a tone echoed through the arena. The competition was beginning. Emily watched as the first competitor took position. He was Mordekin, a tall creature with 6 eyes arranged in a circle around his head. His weapon was a thing of beauty, a sleek beam rifle that hummed with energy. When the targets began to move, he fired with incredible speed, his 6 eyes tracking multiple objects at once. Beams of light shot from his rifle in rapid succession, striking target after target. The crowd murmured in approval as his score climbed. 600, 700, 800. When the final tone sounded, the display showed his result, 847 hits out of 1,000. The Mordekan lowered his weapon and floated back to his delegation. His 6 eyes were bright with satisfaction. 847 was an excellent score. Next came a Tessari competitor, her blue fur rippling as she moved through the zero gravity. Her approach was different. She did not fire rapidly. Instead, she waited, watching the patterns, calculating. When she fired, each shot was precise, deliberate. Her score climbed steadily. 830-1. Then came others. A creature made of living crystal that sang its projectiles into existence. A being with tentacles that could aim in 12 directions at once. A robot representative from a machine civilization, its targeting systems more advanced than anything humans had ever built. Their scores ranged from 700 to 890. Finally, Commander Thesara herself took position. The crowd grew quiet. She was the defending champion, the best marksman the Veltari had produced in generations. Her weapon was connected directly to her nervous system through thin silver wires that ran from the rifle to ports in her arms. When she thought, the weapon responded. When she saw, it aimed. There was no delay between her mind and the trigger. The targets began to move, and the Thesara became a blur of motion. Her 4 arms adjusted the rifle with perfect coordination. Her 4 eyes tracked targets that human eyes could not even see. She fired and fired and fired, and the display climbed higher and higher. 900, 910, 912. The final tone sounded. The Zara lowered her weapon with a satisfied smile. 912. It was not the all-time record, but it was the best score of the day. As she floated past the human delegation. She paused beside Emily. Her 4 eyes looked the human up and down, taking in the simple rifle, the plain uniform, the lack of any visible technology. "Your turn, little human," Thesara said. Her voice was soft, almost kind, but her smile was cruel. "Show me human skill. I am curious to see what your primitive species can do." Emily said nothing. She simply pushed off from the platform and floated toward the center of the arena. The dome felt larger now, with all those eyes watching her. She could hear the whispers of the crowd, the alien languages mixing together into a constant hum. She knew what they were saying. They were wondering why the humans had bothered to come. They were placing bets on how badly she would fail. Sergeant James Kim's voice came through her earpiece. "Emily, you okay?" "I'm fine," she said. "Remember your breathing. Remember your training. You've hit targets smaller than these in worse conditions." "I know. And Emily?" "Yeah? Make them remember us." Emily smiled. She raised her rifle to her shoulder and took a slow, deep breath. The weight of the weapon was perfect. The sight was clear. Her heartbeat slowed to a steady rhythm, the same rhythm she had trained for years to achieve. The tone sounded. The targets began to move. Emily did not rush. She watched the patterns, let her eyes adjust to the chaos, felt the flow of movement in the arena. Then she began to fire. The first shot hit dead center. So did the second, and the third, and the fourth. The crowd's whispers grew louder, then quieter, then stopped altogether. Emily did not notice. She was not in the arena anymore. She was in the zone, that perfect place where thought and action became one, where the world narrowed down to nothing but the target and the trigger. 50 hits. 100 hits. 150. Her rifle kicked against her shoulder with each shot. She compensated automatically, adjusting for the recoil, for the spin of the targets, for the subtle vibration of the station itself. These were things no alien technology could give her. These were things she had earned through 10,000 hours of practice, through failure after failure after failure, until success became as natural as breathing. 200 hits. 250. 300. The aliens watched in growing disbelief. This was impossible. This human had no neural interface, no probability calculator, no enhanced senses. She was using a weapon made of simple metal and glass, a weapon that any of them could have built 1,000 years ago, and yet she was not missing. The counter climbed higher. 400. 450. 500. Commander, the Sarah's smile had faded. Her 4 eyes were wide, fixed on the human woman in the center of the arena. She had never seen anything like this. No one had ever seen anything like this. Emily kept firing. She did not know her score. She did not care about her score. All that existed was the next target, and the next, and the next. The final tone was still minutes away, but already the whispers had stopped. Already the galaxy was watching. Already everything was about to change. The arena had never been this quiet. In all the centuries of competitions, in all the thousands of tests that had taken place within this crystal dome, there had never been a silence like this. Even the machines had stopped humming. Even the air recyclers seemed to hold their breath. Emily Park floated in the center of it all, her rifle moving from target to target with the smoothness of flowing water. She did not see the crowd. She did not hear the silence. She existed in a world of her own, a world where nothing mattered except the next shot. 600 hits. 601. 602. Her arms should have been tired by now. The rifle weighed nearly 4 kilograms, and she had been holding it steady for almost 10 minutes. But Emily did not feel tired. She felt alive. Every nerve in her body was singing. Every muscle was working in perfect harmony. This was what she had been born to do. In the observation area, Ambassador David Lee gripped the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. His tablet showed the live score, and he could not believe what he was seeing. 650 hits. 0 misses. "This is impossible," whispered a Tessari diplomat beside him. "Her species has no genetic advantages for precision. Their eyes are limited. Their reflexes are slow by galactic standards. How is she doing this?" David did not answer. He did not have an answer. He had seen Emily train, had watched her fire thousands of rounds in preparation for this moment. But even he had not expected this. 700 hits. 701. 702. Commander Desara stood apart from the other Velthari, her 4 arms crossed over her chest. Her expression had changed. The mockery was gone. The amusement was gone. In their place was something she had not felt in a very long time: doubt. She had trained for 60 years to become the champion she was. She had undergone genetic modifications to improve her reflexes. She had installed neural implants that connected her mind directly to her weapon. She was the product of her civilization's greatest technology, their most advanced science. And this human, this primitive creature from a backwater planet, was beating her. "Commander," said one of her officers, "shall I run an analysis on her weapon? Perhaps she has hidden technology we cannot detect." The Tsar shook her head slowly. "No, I have scanned her rifle myself. It is exactly what it appears to be: metal, glass, and simple mechanics. There is no deception." "Then how?" The Zara did not answer. She just watched. 800 hits. 801. 802. Emily's breathing was steady and slow. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Her heartbeat had dropped to 50 beats per minute, a rate that most humans could only achieve during deep sleep. But Emily was not sleeping. She was more awake than she had ever been in her life. The targets moved in patterns that seemed random, but were not truly random. Emily had realized this in the first minute of the competition. There was an underlying logic to their movement, a rhythm that repeated if you watched long enough. The aliens, with their computers and their enhanced brains, had tried to calculate this pattern mathematically. Emily did something different. She felt it. 850 hits. 851. 850-2. Her father had taught her to shoot when she was 6 years old. They would go to the range every weekend, just the two of them, and he would stand behind her and guide her hands. "Don't think," he would say. "Thinking is too slow. Feel the target. Let your body do what it knows how to do." She had not understood him then. It had taken years of practice before his words made sense. Years of firing round after round, missing and missing and missing until suddenly she was not missing anymore. The human body was a remarkable thing. It could learn patterns that the conscious mind could not even perceive. It could make adjustments faster than thought, react to changes before the brain had time to process them. This was what the aliens did not understand. This was what their technology could not replicate. They relied on their machines to do the calculating, to make the decisions. Emily relied on something far older and far more powerful. She relied on the accumulated wisdom of 1 billion years of evolution. The same instincts that had let her ancestors hunt on the plains of Africa. The same reflexes that had kept the human species alive. Through ice ages and famines and wars. 900 hits. The number appeared on the display, and a gasp ran through the crowd. 900 hits. 0 misses. Emily Park had just matched the best performance of the day, and she still had almost 2 minutes left. Sergeant James Kim was shouting into his earpiece, but Emily could not hear him. The world had narrowed down to a single point of focus. She was not thinking about records or scores or the fate of humanity. She was only thinking about the next target, 912 hits. She had matched the Sarah's score. The Velthury champion stood frozen, her 4 eyes unblinking, her silver skin pale. 913 hits. Emily had done what no human had ever done before. She had beaten the best marksman in the galaxy, but she was not finished. 920 hits. 930. 940. The targets were moving faster now. The final phase of the competition designed to push participants to their limits. Smaller targets, quicker movements, tighter windows. Emily adjusted without thought, her rifle tracking each object with impossible precision. 950 hits. Some of the aliens had begun to make sounds. Low moans, clicks, whistles of disbelief. They could not process what they were seeing. Their worldview was breaking apart in real time. 960 hits. 970. Emily's muscles were burning now. The lactic acid was building up in her arms, her shoulders, her back. Her vision was starting to blur at the edges. But she pushed through. She had trained for this. She had suffered for this. She had given up everything normal people took for granted. All those years of her life devoted to this single purpose. 980 hits. The crowd was making noise now. A rising tide of sound that Emily still could not hear. She was beyond hearing. She was beyond everything except the target and the trigger. 990 hits. 10 more. Just 10 more. 990-5. 990-7. 990-9. 1 target left. It was the smallest one in the arena, a circle barely 2 centimeters across. Spinning wildly in the far corner of the dome. Emily took a breath. She held it. She felt her heartbeat, slow and steady. She fired. The final tone sounded. The display flickered, calculated, and showed the result. 1,000 hits. 0 misses. The silence lasted for exactly 3 seconds. Then the arena exploded into chaos. Emily Park lowered her rifle slowly. Her arms were shaking now, trembling with the effort of holding steady for 15 minutes. Her shoulders felt like they were on fire. Her fingers were numb. But none of that mattered. None of that mattered at all. The display still showed the number. 1,000 hits, 0 misses. Perfect accuracy. Something that had never been achieved in the entire history of the Galactic Council. The chaos in the observation area was overwhelming. Aliens were shouting in a dozen different languages. Translator devices were struggling to keep up with the flood of words. Some beings were pushing toward the front, trying to get a better look at the human woman floating in the center of the arena. Others were pulling up data on their devices, searching for some explanation, some error in the scoring system. But there was no error. Emily had done the impossible. Sergeant James Kim reached her first. He flew across the arena using the emergency jets built into his suit, grabbing her arm to steady her as she drifted. His face was wet with tears. He did not seem to notice. "Emily," he said, his voice cracking. "Emily, you did it. You actually did it." She looked at him, and for a moment she did not seem to recognize him. Then her eyes cleared, and she gave him a tired smile. "I told you I would." Ambassador David Lee was next, arriving with a security team to escort Emily back to the platform. The aliens parted before them, not out of respect but out of shock. They stared at Emily like she was a ghost, a creature from legend, something that should not exist. When they reached the platform, Commander Desara was waiting. The Valkyrie champion had not moved from her spot. She stood perfectly still, her forearms hanging at her sides, her 4 eyes fixed on Emily with an expression that was impossible to read. The other Valkyrie had gathered behind her, whispering urgently, but Desara did not seem to hear them. Emily stopped in front of her. The two women faced each other, human and alien, and for a long moment neither spoke. Then Desara stepped forward. She moved slowly, deliberately, her silver skin gleaming under the arena lights. She stopped when she was close enough to touch Emily, looking down at the smaller woman with those strange, beautiful eyes. "How?" Desara asked. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "I must know. How did you do this?" Emily thought about the question. She thought about all the things she could say, all the explanations she could give. She could talk about practice, about training, about the years she had spent perfecting her craft. She could talk about human biology, about muscle memory, about the way the human brain could learn patterns below the level of conscious thought. But in the end, she chose simpler words. "We practice," Emily said. "That's all. We practice." Desara's eyes narrowed. "That cannot be all. My people practice as well. We have trained for longer than your species has existed." "It's different," Emily said. She was so tired, but she wanted Desara to understand. "You practice until you succeed. We practice even after we succeed. We practice until failure becomes impossible. We push ourselves past what our bodies should be able to do, again and again, until the impossible becomes ordinary." "But why?" Desara asked. "Why would you do this to yourselves?" Emily smiled. "Because we're human. Because we were born on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages, predators, diseases, each other. We survived all of it. And we survived because we refused to accept our limits. We refused to believe that we couldn't be better." Desara was silent for a long moment. The watching crowd had grown quiet again, straining to hear the exchange between the two champions. Then, slowly, Commander Desara of the Valkyrie did something that shocked everyone who knew her. She bowed, not the shallow nod of greeting, but a deep bow of genuine respect. bending her long body nearly in half, her forearms crossed over her chest in the Velthari gesture of honor. "I asked you to show me human skill," Dasara said as she straightened. "I expected nothing. I thought your performance would be a brief amusement before the real competition began." She paused. "I was wrong. You have not just shown me human skill. You have redefined what skill means." A ripple of sound moved through the crowd. Some of the aliens were bowing now, using whatever gesture their species had for respect. The Mordekan were stomping their feet in a thunderous rhythm. The Tazari were singing a low, harmonic note. Even the machine representative was blinking its lights in a pattern that might have been applause. "Ambassador." David Lee stepped forward. "Commander Dasara, I hope this demonstration has shown the Council that humanity deserves consideration for membership." Dasara turned to look at him. "Consideration?" She almost laughed. "Ambassador, I will personally recommend humanity for full membership. Not as observers. Not as trial members. Full and equal status." David blinked. That has never happened before. New species always start as observers. "There has never been a species like yours before," Dasara said. She looked back at Emily. "You have no genetic advantages. You have no technological enhancements. You have bodies that are fragile and lives that are short. And yet you stand here, having done what no being in galactic history has ever done. If that does not earn you equality, then nothing ever could." Emily felt her legs growing weak. The adrenaline was fading, and the exhaustion was catching up with her. James caught her before she could fall, supporting her weight with his arm. "I think she needs to rest," James said. Dasara nodded. "Of course. The human champion has earned her rest." She paused, then added, "I would like to visit her when she has recovered. I have many questions about human training methods. I wish to understand." Emily looked up at the alien commander, this being who had mocked her only hours ago. "I'd like that," she said, Dodd. As James led her away, Emily could hear the sound of the crowd behind her. It was different now. The laughter was gone, replaced by something else. Wonder, perhaps? Or fear? Or both. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy, Dodd, and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 months had passed since the competition on Convergence Prime. 3 months since a woman from Earth had done the impossible. 3 months since the galaxy had learned to respect humanity. Emily Park stood on the observation deck of the Velthari starship Silver Dawn, watching the planet below grow larger in the window. It was called Desser Prime, the homeworld of the Velthari, a beautiful world of silver oceans and crystal forests. She was the first human to ever visit it. Commander Dasara stood beside her, pointing out landmarks as they descended through the clouds. The alien woman had changed in these past months. The arrogance was still there, buried deep, but it had been joined by something else: curiosity, humility, a genuine desire to learn. "That mountain range," Dasara said, gesturing with one of her 4 arms, "is where our greatest warriors trained in ancient times. Before we had technology, before we had starships, we learned to fight there. The cold and the stone made us strong." Emily nodded. "We have places like that on Earth. Mountains where our warriors trained. Rivers they swam in winter. Forests where they hunted without weapons." Dasara looked at her. "Your species fascinates me, Emily. In 3 months, I have learned more about human history than I knew about any alien race in 60 years. Your wars, your art, your science, all of it achieved without genetic modification, without neural enhancement, without any of the advantages other species take for granted. We had to work harder," Emily said simply. "We didn't have a choice." The ship landed in the capital city, a sprawling metropolis of silver towers and floating gardens. Thousands of Velthari had gathered to witness the arrival of the human ambassador. They lined the streets, their four eyes watching with a mixture of curiosity and something that might have been fear. Emily had gotten used to that look. She saw it everywhere she went now, on every station, on every planet. The aliens looked at humans differently since the competition. They no longer saw a primitive species struggling to catch up. They saw something else. Something that made them nervous. Ambassador David Lee had explained it to her once. "They're afraid of our potential," he had said. "They've been the dominant powers in this galaxy for thousands of years. Their civilizations are ancient and stable. They've reached the limits of what their biology and technology can achieve. But we're just getting started. They look at what you did and wonder what humans will be capable of in another 100 years. Another 1,000 years." Emily had not known how to respond to that. She was just a shooter. She had spent her life learning to hit targets. She had never thought of herself as a symbol of anything. But symbols, she was learning, were not always chosen. Sometimes they were thrust upon you. The ceremony that evening was grand beyond anything Emily had ever experienced. The Velthari had prepared a feast in the human tradition, researching Earth cuisine and doing their best to recreate it with alien ingredients. The results were strange but touching. Something that was almost pizza. Something that was nearly chocolate cake. A drink that tasted remarkably like coffee. Emily sat at the head table beside the Sara and the Velthari Council. Around her, the great hall was filled with representatives from every species in the galaxy. They had all come to witness this moment, the formal acceptance of humanity into the Galactic Council. Ambassador David Lee stood to give his speech. He looked older than he had 3 months ago, more tired. But there was a fire in his eyes that Emily had never seen before. "Distinguished members of the Council," David began. 3 years ago, humanity sent its first ships beyond our solar system. We came to the stars full of hope, eager to meet other intelligent life, ready to learn and share and grow. What we found instead was dismissal. We were told we were primitive. We were told we were weak. We were told we had nothing to offer. He paused, letting the words sink in. "You were wrong." A murmur ran through the crowd. David continued. "You asked what makes humans special. It is a fair question. We are not the fastest. We are not the strongest. We do not have the best senses or the longest lives. By almost every measure, we should have gone extinct millions of years ago on our harsh and dangerous planet." He smiled. "But we didn't. We survived ice ages that killed 90% of all life. We survived predators with claws and teeth and venom. We survived diseases that swept across continents. We survived each other, our own endless capacity for violence and destruction. And do you know how we survived?" David pointed at Emily. "We practiced. We learned. We adapted. We took our weaknesses and we turned them into strengths. When we could not outrun our predators, we built weapons. When we could not survive the cold, we made fire. When we could not remember everything, we invented writing. Every limitation was a challenge. Every challenge was an opportunity." His voice rose. Lieutenant Emily Park did not win that competition because she was born special. She won because she refused to accept that she was ordinary. She spent 20,000 hours training. 20,000 hours of practice, of failure, of getting up and trying again. That is what humanity is. That is what we offer the galaxy. Not our technology, not our resources, but our spirit. Our absolute refusal to accept the impossible. The hall was silent. Every eye, every sensor, every form of alien perception was focused on David Lee. "You have accepted us as equals," David said. "I promise you this. One day, you will wonder if that was wise. One day, human scientists will unlock secrets of the universe that your civilizations never discovered. Human artists will create works that make your greatest masters weep. Human explorers will travel to places you never dreamed of reaching. And human warriors will stand beside you against any threat this galaxy has ever known. He raised his glass. To the future. To the new era. To humanity. The hall erupted in applause and sounds of approval from every species present. Emily felt tears streaming down her face, though she could not have said why. Later that night, she stood alone on a balcony overlooking the crystal forests of Thesser Prime. The moons were rising, 3 silver crescents in an alien sky, and the light made everything look like a dream. The Sara found her there. The Velthari commander moved to stand beside her, saying nothing for a long moment. "When I first saw you on Convergence Prime," the Sara finally said, "I thought you were nothing. A curiosity. A brief entertainment before the real competition began." She paused. "I have never been so wrong about anything in my entire life." Emily smiled. "I thought you were arrogant and cruel. A bully who enjoyed looking down on others." The Zara inclined her head. "I was those things. Perhaps I still am. But I am trying to be better." She looked at Emily. "You have taught me that being better is possible. That change is possible. That is a gift I did not expect from a human." They stood together in silence, watching the moons rise higher. "What will you do now?" the Zara asked. Emily thought about the question. She could go home to Earth, rest, enjoy her fame. She could continue as an ambassador, traveling from world to world as a symbol of human potential. She could do anything she wanted. "I think I want to teach," she said finally. "Not just humans. Anyone who wants to learn. I want to show the galaxy what we discovered on Earth, the secret that made us special. That greatness isn't something you're born with. It's something you earn, 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 shot at a time." The Zara smiled, her silver face glowing in the moonlight. "I would like to be your first student." Emily looked at her, surprised. "You showed me human skill," the Zara said. "Now show me how to find it in myself." Emily extended her hand, and the Zara took it with one of her own. The grip was strange, alien fingers wrapping around human ones. But it felt right above them. The stars burned bright against the darkness, and somewhere among them, a small blue planet waited for its children to come home. They would come home changed. They would come home ready. The new era had begun.